There's something missing. I can't put my finger on it. And I'm going in circles. Let's just start with Jake Paul and Joshua. There's something missing. Now, no fight has ever drawn in the history of time where you don't have a reasonable belief, no matter how silly you look after the fact, but a reasonable belief going into it that both parties can win. And never in my lifetime has there been a sporting event that is as lopsided as Joshua versus Paul. And I've only made that statement one other time. And it turned out to be one of the most amazing sporting events I've ever seen. It was Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury. At that point in my life, I had never seen a sporting event that was as lopsided. So we've got Joshua, we got Paul, we got the right players, got the right network, something. I'm still trying to find it, but there's a little piece that's missing. So I'm watching UFC over the weekend, and I get to see Chimaev. Chimaev is in the corner of Tsarukyan. And I am a fan, a mark for Chimaev. I find him interesting. I remember back when he and Darren Till used to film themselves driving in traffic, and I would watch it. He and Darren Till, one of the great videos I've ever seen was he and Darren Till pushing a shopping cart through their local grocery store. Like, there's just something interesting about Chimaev. But when I see Chimaev, it dawns on me, hey, you know what? That's Chimaev. That's that guy from the UFC. That's the world champion. How come he doesn't have an opponent? Something's missing. Now, we've been told, and I think that we're right, that it's going to be Imanov. That sounds right to me. And there is no other 185-pounder arguing that it should be them. Now, I think that's a mistake. I think Bo Nickal should be arguing that it's him. Now, Bo's going to get laughed at and teased and poked at because he's 1-1 in his last two, and everything that happened with RDR, I think he should stay on it, and he is next for Chimaev. That's what I think, but something's missing. Then Chimaev comes out, he speaks very loosely about the opportunity and says, bring it up in 9 months. We're going to get to the other side of Ramadan. Now, I'm no different than anybody else. I don't want to start to give an analysis and a take that touches on something as fragile and sensitive as a religious practice. So we all just kind of sit back. But something's off there. Then you go to Tsarukyan, 155 pounds. What does he do next? Now, we've already been told in as clear of English as you can speak, the winner of Tsarukyan and Hooker fights for the world championship. We've just on our own, and I'm guilty of it too, decided that didn't mean the next time the world championship is contested, it's one of these two. It means the winner of Tsarukyan and Hooker, the next time they compete, whoever that winner is, the next time they compete, they will be competing for a world championship. We all believed that Paddy the Baddy or Justin Gaethje was going to get a more immediate nod, but that didn't happen. That did not happen. So there's something here that's off. Now let's take a look at Islam. Islam is now spouting back and forth with Ian Garry. Ian Garry has a skill set that would be very helpful for Islam. Ian Garry has an ability to bring attention and bring media to a fight. But is Garry the right guy? That's where something's missing. Islam was so red hot a couple weeks ago. There was discussions of him down at 155 pounds and discussions of him at 170 pounds. That on the White House lawn, it's going to be Islam versus Ilia Topuria. Like, those conversations can come back. I'm just sharing for you. A week ago, they were here. And now with a victory by Islam, thus making Islam a bigger star, there's less conversation. So Islam is now starting to lock in at least a little bit on Ian Garry. And I imagine if you're an Islam spot, whoever the most recent main eventer in your weight class to get a victory, right? Most recent featured fight of your weight class to get a victory, I imagine you got to weigh in on him. And one thing I love about Islam, he really doesn't care. He will genuinely take on anybody. He genuinely believes, like Islam lives by a code, but part of that code is that sport tells me who to fight. I don't tell sport. I got to tell you, I love that. Through Sambo, which Islam pays a lot of credit to, through Judo, which Islam pays a lot of credit to, through freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling, which Islam is surrounded with and gives credit to. Those athletes get told by a bracket. You don't sit down and meet and negotiate. The sport will tell you what mat you're on, what color you're wearing, and who your opponent is, and you go do it. And Islam has that inside of him. I really like that about Islam. But something's off. Islam sold out Madison Square Garden 2 weeks ago, but now something's off. Is it the idea that it's Garry? Is Garry just the wrong opponent? Because if Gary's the wrong opponent to bring the special shine to Islam, I don't believe that Morales solves that problem. Gary's a stud, but he's a well-known stud. Morales is a complete stud. He's not as well-known. Gary's got a really good record. Morales has a better record. Then you have the idea of Rakhmonov. Where's Rakhmonov? When does Rakhmonov come back? When Rakhmonov does come back, do you want to see him against Islam, or do you want to see him doing something different? When Rakhmonov comes back, the 18 or 19-0 undefeated, do you even want to see him at 170 pounds? Would you rather see Rakhmonov versus Islam, or would you rather see Rakhmonov versus Chimaev? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Then you have Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman versus Islam, for me, is very interesting. I value takedowns. I value wrestling. I know from a cardiovascular standpoint how difficult it is. I know to attack this man in his entire body and take him to the ground against his will. I appreciate that. But I can't fully appreciate what Islam is doing when I think about the guys that he's doing it to. Now, that's not meant as a disrespect to Jack. It's just in all fairness, when I tell you I'm a wrestling fan, Jack has never had a wrestling match. Islam got on top of him 5 times. Well, but I would expect for Islam to get on top of a guy 5 times who's never done a wrestling match. I would expect that. And that's what Kamaru becomes so interesting. But Kamaru's not the big talk. See, something's missing. Something's off. And we've got all of these stories. In professional wrestling, they call this starting and stopping. It is nothing will upset the locker room more than starting and stopping. If you ask a guy to go out there and do the JOB, and he says, all right, I'm going to job on TV for this much lesser known talent, but if you're not going to take that guy and run him to the stars, why do I got to do the job? If he's not the guy that you're going to put a rocket ship on, I don't want to go put him over on TV. Now, if he's the guy and you're going to run with him, I'll go out and I'll kick in and I'll do my part tonight. So you go out and the star goes and he gets pinned 1, 2, 3, and then they take this guy and we don't really like him. Here, get him to get pinned by somebody else and we're going to go with that guy. Now you got this guy going, what did I do it for in the first place? And you have these loose ends. I should know who Chimaev is fighting. Even if I don't have the date, I should know not a discussion, I should know who Chimaev is fighting. This isn't a date or a location or a weight class issue. I should know who is next for Islam Makhachev. I should know, regardless of injury, which is private information or not, when Rakhmonov is expected to return. But I don't. I should know if Kamaru Usman is in a battle in the media right now versus Ian Garry, or if it's Kamaru versus Morales. Or if I got it totally wrong and it's Morales versus Ian Garry. Of those 3, who is getting a bigger light shined on them? Which one of them is going to step forward in the media and make sure they get what they want, which is a piece of paper with their name on it? That's all the bout agreement is. But if you have the bout agreement to fight the champion, that's how you become a number 1 contender. People get this confused all the time. They think the rankings committee tells us who the number 1 contender is. No. Being ranked number 1 and being number 1 contender is not the same thing. Being ranked number 1 is where the rankings committee ranks you number 1. Being next, by virtue of a signed bout agreement, is how you become a number 1 contender. But again, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something here that's off.